Hello and welcome to another episode of the Bogey Golf Podcast with AIG, dedicated supporters of amateur golf in Ireland. This series will showcase some of the incredible amateur golf across Ireland this year. Go visit aig.ie for a range of golf-exclusive discounts and benefits. Golf Ireland members can save an additional 10% on their car insurance when you choose AIG. In this episode, David Shiel joins me on the podcast. David is the 2023 Bridgestone Order of Merit champion. This is a really honest and detailed conversation with David, all about his resilience and his drive to push himself and compete at the highest level possible. There are some fantastic nuggets in here, so please enjoy.
It's mind-blowing that I've been able to play 11 matches for Ireland. That's something I'm extremely proud of. Absolutely one of my top goals in golf is to win a senior cup in the Barton Shield, for sure.
David Shiel, thank you very much for coming on the podcast. How are you?
Great, thanks Johnny, thanks for having me.
So after Keith came in with his trophy, you decided you to come in with the Bridgestone Order of Merit trophy.
Yeah, it's a very special one for me, I guess. The Willie Gill award, as it's called, got that the back end of last year, and it's just very unique, as you can see. It's kind of not like many other trophies, certainly not like anything else I've seen. It's kind of got a cool backstory. I think Willie Gill himself played for Ireland for years and then was the president of Golf Ireland, or the GUI at the time, and then they gave him this as a memorial when he retired. And then ultimately they turned it into the Order of Merit trophy, which has been going since the 60s, maybe, I think it is.
Okay.
It's just very unique, like the book style, not the traditional trophy, and then I guess the best thing about it is the names on it. So yeah, it's cool. It's great to have around the house. I like to look at it, and it's funny when you finish a season, or for me personally, anyway, winning that was, I think I've said it to people before, is a little bit anticlimactic because I didn't win anything. Any of the individual tournaments, just kind of a lot of top tens and decent finishes. And then even like say when I did win it, which was at the North, I kind of knew with pretty much 27 holes to go in the North that I had it won.
Okay.
And you finish and it's kind of like, I was really trying to focus on my finish in the North as opposed to thinking about that. And then, it's a little bit anticlimactic because I finished 8th in the North, but then you get a trophy a couple of weeks later for, ultimately, that was the last thing that did it.
Yeah.
So I'd not be great at, getting excited about that because I didn't win. I feel like if it was a tournament, it'd be different. So, since I've gotten it, I've tried to make sure I keep it around, keep it in sight, have the parents have had it for a while and things like that. So, it's cool.
And it's funny trophy. Obviously, it's like a book on a kind of mantle. It's not like a typical trophy where you, like, obviously you hear stories of whatever people drinking out of them. Tough to drink out of the book.
Yeah, I suppose it probably makes sense then that a teetotaler wins it. So the ironies.
Yeah, exactly. Teetotaler.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Why? What's the thought process behind not drinking?
Join the queue of the thousands of people who have asked me that question over the years.
Yeah. My wife doesn't either.
Okay, right.
And what I've turned around to her and say is, just pretend you're on antibiotics all the time. Like, it's always on antibiotics. It's like the most Irish answer to that question.
I've never drank. It's always been a thing for me since I was young, or friends would have started drinking when I was younger. I've always played sport. I've been mad in sports since a young lad, big into my health. Obviously get dogs abuse about that on the golf course from my food that I bring and that kind of stuff. So it's really, it's kind of a health thing, and it makes me so much more efficient. It means I can do so much more and still socialize, and I've never had a problem being social without drinking. So then as I got into my kind of late teens or whatever, early 20s, and I think once you go through college in a very social setting and you've never had a drink and you don't need a drink, I can't ever see it happening now at this stage. And I love the fact that it's a little bit different, and I feel it's good for my body and it's good for my mind. So
yeah, and my wife says that, like, so you spoke about, you're still sociable, you go out and the likes. I have no problem doing that. My wife says the same thing. She's like, sure, I don't know any different.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. Yeah.
Why do people think it's
It's funny.
all that different? We're like, well, obviously none of us grew up drinking.
Yeah,
Like, well, maybe some of us did, but it's something that you take up. So yeah, obviously I'd be fine going out and being social.
Yeah, it's funny the amount of people who say who get overly paranoid about what they do be saying or whatever after midnight. It's hilarious. You probably count on a couple of fingers, just, you know, the really frustrating conversations you have at that stage. It was very rare, you know. People would be surprised.
Another funny one that I always kind of note is people go, yeah, you know, I don't drink that much, or I'd love to be able to stop drinking.
Yeah,
and you're just like, well, like, God,
it's your choice. Yeah, no, I guess like it's, if you get into the habit of anything, it's hard to break. But for me, I think it's great for the golf. It was always great for the football. It meant I could be social. I didn't have to miss, you know, major birthdays or events or whatever, even though I was playing, because in Ireland obviously the main football is Sunday league, so that kind of you know, the lads who take it seriously would lose their Saturday night socializing if they're that way inclined. So for me it's always been great. It meant that I can be basically really efficient with my time, get as much done, and as I said, I'm very health conscious. So
I'd love to go back if I could. You obviously spoke about kind of playing a lot of football and being sporty. Football came first for you in life before golf was ever really on the radar.
Yeah, no, it was certainly my first love. I played it since a really young kid. I just was obsessed with it. I just loved it, and I played, you know, in club football since I was probably 4 or 5, and then you know, played in school, and then in my kind of early teens, like I was fine. I played in okay teams growing up, and I would have loved to, you know, I would have always thought of trying to play. I used to go to UCD and watch the Aircom League team there, and had a bit of crack with Jason Sherlock about that recently, but because he's big into his golf now. But I would have always kind of, that would have been an ambition, and then I had to stop for a number of years when I got this growing injury at the top of my shins, actually. So kind of my formative years I missed, and that's when I really started taking up the golf as a kind of teenager.
Okay.
But then once I was fully grown, I was able to get back into it. So I got back into it kind of after school, started college basically. So lost my touch and all of that kind of stuff. So I was very much just a positional centre back, let's say. So so then I played 11, 12 years of Leinster Senior League once I got to college, and it was by far my biggest love. I just loved the team sport, the competitiveness of it, the highs and the lows, I guess, that you get with that, and even the training. And I always remember, you know, a couple of the teams I played in would have been younger guys who were still in college when I was working, and I'd get to training on a cold Tuesday evening on the Astro or whatever, and I'd be loving it. Guys would be looking at me and saying, how do you enjoy this? I'm like, well, I've been sitting at the desk for, you know, 7-8 hours today. You guys have been just doing nothing in college. So yeah, I kind of loved every aspect of it, and I miss it so much, but it's kind of out of my hands at the end.
Were you a natural athlete?
Oh no, I wouldn't say I'm like a natural athlete by any stretch of imagination. I'm a bit of a kind of tall lank, but no, I'd have a decent engine. Yeah, so I would have been you know, reasonably fit all the time. I would have been conscious of staying fit. But it's not really the athletic side. I don't know how to describe it. I just love sport so much, and I think it's the competitive aspect of it that I love. And I just love, like, I used to love the grind of a match, like a tight match. And I was a centre back, so again, you make a mistake, it's kind of all on the line, or you have the chance to get the dramatic goal that no one expects or whatever from a corner. I just loved all aspects of that. Like some of the highs are things that, like, it kind of sounds trivial maybe, but I'll never forget, like in my last 6 years I played with Pegasus St. James's. So we were in a really good league, like the third top league, fourth top league, which are the 4 main leagues, let's say, in the amateur football. And, you know, we would have had a lot of relegation fights and staying up on the last day and things like that. The high or the elation of if you do score a goal in that run in, or remember our last game that season, getting a header that was cleared off the line and then turned in straight away. So it was ultimately the goal that got us going in the last game to keep us up, and that kind of stuff. Like, I'll be 80, I'll still remember that. I'll still distinctly remember that header, or remember a tackle that, because I don't know, it means a lot, the competitive aspect of it for me. And so I'd say it's more less the athleticism, let's say, more the competitiveness, I would say. Yeah.
And so was the ambition to turn football into the career, or was it always just a hobby that you were really, really good at?
Oh, well, I wasn't even really, really good at it by any stretch of the imagination. I think when I was a kid, I would have absolutely loved to be a professional footballer, for sure. And that would have been, in my kind of, even before I was a teen, certainly before I was a teen, let's say. But then I'd say as I was like, started 11 aside and stuff, it was probably clear I wasn't going to be a professional footballer. But I really would have loved to play kind of high end in Ireland. And I guess ultimately in the amateur side I did. Like I played in those top leagues, as I mentioned, of the Leinster Senior League, and we didn't win any of those leagues or anything like that. I won a lower league with Beechwood, let's say, when I was starting in the Leinster Senior League. But I certainly would have loved to play higher level, like going down and having season tickets for UCD when I was 9, 10, that kind of thing. I would have loved to have done that. But the injury put the kibosh on that for sure. Whether I would have been able to achieve that or not, I don't know. But I don't think I ever really saw a career in sport. I always liked academics as well, and I was always quite studious. But I think I've known since I was a kid that I'm going to want sport in my life forever. For as long as I can still wag, let's say, I want to have sport in my life.
And then it's eventually injury that kind of ended the football career for you? Yeah,
it was a tricky one. I was blessed then after when I started playing SC, like one bad injury, which cost me a couple of months at one stage in an ankle. And then as I started getting into the 30s or towards the 30s, I started getting a lot of pain in my back and my lower neck, and I kind of ignored it for quite a while. And ultimately I got a scan, and one season we had stayed up, and the last game I remember ever playing, I just felt 70 years old for the next 2 weeks. And I said, I'm not playing the rest of the season. We're already up. There's only 4 games left. I need to get this looked at. And so I got a scan, MRI, went to the orthopedic surgeon. He said, I need to open you up straight away. I need to do surgery on your neck. You've got an impingement in there that's quite dangerous. And I just said, no way, I'm not getting surgery on my neck at this age. And so I had to make the tough decision to stop. And it was very tough. I went back. I remember I got a lot of treatment, did a lot of rehab, and started standing in work, got the Jeep, that kind of thing to try and help it. Had a lot of improvement over that summer, played a decent bit of golf that summer, and then went back to pre-season training, and I loved it. I was just back in the first day back, and I was like, no, I can't give this up. And we broke away into a match at the end, and I remember, I'll never forget Cross coming in, and I just nudged one of the guys out of the way who was the striker so that I could duck and not head it. And I realised then, no, the body doesn't want it. No, it obviously was I'd say it was a lot of the headers and getting smacks in the back and things like that were leading to the issue in the neck. So this is not worth it.
And so was it a fear thing there when you went back into the match element? You was like, you knew that this was here.
I think it was funny when it's kind of like it just the body seemed to know.
Yeah.
The body just didn't want it. So that was it for me. I was like, I talked to them, contemplated, well, I could play right back, so I'm not heading as much, but no, I would have been terrible there. So,
and was this an injury brought on by football? And
I suspect so. Kind of, we'll never know. I've got a couple of bony spurs on the vertebrae which pinch nerves, so I can't move my middle finger on my left hand properly now because of nerve damage that went the whole way down my left side. Because I had, for about 18 months, I had constant pain, like sore pins and needles in my left arm the whole time. Couldn't sleep on my left side and things like that from the nerve issue. I was just kind of ignoring it, trying to get on with it. But suspicion would be constant impacts, landing on hard ground, getting smacks in the back, which just lead to little kind of splinters, I guess, and then calcification. And at the start, it was very tricky to swing the golf club because I'd have a lot of pain in my left arm. But it's like I've had, I get some instances where it kind of flares up a little bit and I can feel the nerve. And sometimes I've just gone up to Leopardstown and hit 100 balls and then it kind of loosens out. I don't know, whatever it is about golf, like I've hit thousands of golf balls since I had this injury, and I've had very few flare-ups. Like it causes me no pain right now. Sitting here, I'm fine. I do still mind it a lot. I do a lot of rehab and I try and look after it, and I get treatment regularly and things like that. So I do look after it, but yeah, it's kind of funny one that it was so bad for football, and you would think with the pressure and the torque on the body and the golf, it wouldn't be great either, but yeah, no, it's been fine to date, really.
Yeah, interesting. And this is a case of this is an injury that's not going anywhere. No amount of treatment's going to be able to relieve tension permanently, or is it just a management case?
Yeah, I think it's a management thing at the moment for me. Maybe when I'm older, I might need to get a small operation on it. I've had a friend who's had a similar one done, and it's not that serious an operation, but it's pretty straightforward, I think. As they would describe it at the moment, I just didn't want anyone going at my neck at that age, because you never know.
What age were you?
30.
Yeah, it's tough to let someone at your neck.
Yeah.
At 30 years of age.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd want that now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
How do you manage then? Like, obviously, football at that point in your life is such a big part of your life. Does that must leave some kind of a void? Sounds a bit dramatic, but it probably is.
Oh, massive!
Similar.
Yeah. Oh, it was very, very upsetting at the time. Obviously, as a grown man, you're not like, you're not in a heap about it. But it was upsetting, and I did miss it. And I guess, as I have with everything, if there's something like that, I just go on to the next thing, focus on the next thing. So then that summer, I remember being on holidays and, not being a reader. I don't read at all, but I was reading that book on Tiger Woods, the one that the HBO documentary was based on.
Oh, yeah, the Armin Katayan one.
I can't remember who wrote it, but the one that's just his picture and it's called Tiger Woods. And I remember just reading that thinking, obviously it covers a lot of the controversy, but it covers a lot about how he approached, his practice and his training. And I remember just reading it thinking, why did I never bother trying with golf? Because I was okay. Like, as a boy, I played the boys in my last year of under 18. I just got low enough to play those off 3. I never did really any good. I made one cut, but I was okay. Like, I was 3 since I was 16 or whatever, so I was decent at that.
Your scale of good versus my scale of good is very different. As someone that's not even reached 3 yet. Well,
I chat to all these guys I play with now, or I'm playing with these guys who are that age now, and they're like absolute superstars. And I feel scarlet about what I was like when I was that age. So yeah, I mean, I had played it, and I basically just played casually my whole kind of 20s, let's say. When I was playing football, I'd go up to power squad or whatever, having not warmed up, just got straight down to the first on the west, make a 6 every time pretty much, and then try and get back into the buffer from there. And I just read the book and I was like, why did I never try? And I hadn't had a lesson since I was I think 17, 18 maybe. And so I got back from holidays, and the first thing I did was got onto Brendan McDade and went to get lessons. And yeah, just absolutely obsessed with it since, of just trying to get better.
You're an interesting case where you've obviously you've played underage golf and football. What are the underage systems and like the pathways like in each? Because you've kind of seen both.
Yeah, I think the football for me is so dependent on individual coaches, I would say. So clubs and coaches. I think the thing about golf is there's an awful lot more independence as a golfer. So, I look at some of the guys I'm playing with now, they're really good under 18s, like Finn or John or Sean and these guys. And, they're playing tournaments abroad, they're playing tournaments in Ireland, they're traveling, maybe with their mum and dad or with each other. And how they improve depends on kind of individual performance. Absolutely, they've got their panels for Leinster, Ulster, Connacht, whatever it is, and then their Irish panels, and they've got their club golf. But in football, your progression is so dependent on selection as well. You have to remember. So are you getting selected for your starting 11 in your club, and then do you progress? So I think the club environment, or even the individual managers you have, are probably far more important. Now, you might say in golf, the coach you have or the team environment you have in your club golf, it's so, I view it as so different. And the other thing about it is, how do you help a young kid who's exceptional in this individual sport where they need to live in their own mind for hours on end, every individual tournament, but also every week as they're practicing and prepping. Whereas you're a young footballer, you're in a team environment, and it's amazing having played it, and anyone who's played both, or Gaelic and golf, like the difference between, what goes on in your head as playing football or team sport versus golf is just incredible. Like it's 2 totally different disciplines. So I would say, for me, again, I was never on any sort of pathway in either, at any point. So, but from outside looking in, I would say that kind of club that you're in as a young guy, or even who the managers might be or coaches at the time, is probably a lot more influence on young footballers than golfers, because there's a lot more independence, I'd say, in golf.
Yeah, interesting. So you met up with Brendan McDade in Spaville, I imagine, yeah?
Yeah.
And I remember you speaking before about how that kind of, you just got hooked, and I don't know if it's fair to say you've got probably a bit of an addictive personality. You get into something and you give it 100%.
Yeah.
What was that journey like? Because you were probably playing off low single figures at that point when you get back into golf.
Yeah, so that summer when I gave up the football, I'd gotten down from 3 to 2. It was the first time I'd ever gotten to 2, and I felt like king of the castle kind of thing, getting down to 2. I just felt like the difference between 3 and 2 was just, I felt immense. And then I went to see Brendan, and I got from 2 to scratch like so quick, like ridiculously quick, like weeks, I think.
What was the difference?
Well, I didn't know what I was doing. Like, I was absolutely slashing at the golf ball, but also the mindset stuff. He was really good at, like, you know, what's your plan, and you know, even just chatting. I would talk to him a lot as well as doing swing stuff, and he was great for getting me focused on a score or whatever. And then as I started playing with better players, that kind of all kind of helped along the way. But I think the big difference was having to focus on it. I'd go and practice 4 nights a week or whatever, having not even hit balls before I go out before that. And, you know, people talk about it and say, oh, it's not all about hitting balls. Well, for me, it certainly was, because I was slashing at the golf ball. I didn't, like, my swing was still not necessarily anything to behold, but it was awful, to be honest. And so learning more about, I don't understand P1, P5 or any of that stuff. Like, that's like, I kind of go a lot on feel and drills, basically. That's what I've learned. Drills are brilliant for me because be reasonably disciplined. So, you know, Brendan or now Noel, who I go to for teaching, give me tons of drills and just know that I'm just going to hammer away at that for weeks. And it'll probably have the desired effect because I'll do it over and over and I'll stick with it and trust it or whatever. So that was the game changing kind of thing for me. Yeah.
And so when you get into working with Brendan and you get down to scratch or so, is it a case of the competitiveness and you kind of shines through in terms of like what you'd probably lost from football? You're getting back from golf now, and you're able to look at things like scratch cups at this point now, and look at the championships and go, cool, this is something that I could either qualify for or get into, and find that competitive juice. Yeah,
exactly. Like, I mean, the whole thing, especially for me, having grown up where my dad grew up in Enniscrone, and I would have spent all my summers and holidays down there. That's where I learned my golf. Is the West. I always knew about the West, and I was obsessed with the idea of, could I play in the West someday? Just playing it. And so when I got to scratch, like, the only thing that was on my mind was to play in the championships. That was the only thing, because, you know, I totally lost touch with golf. I wouldn't have even been able to tell you who won this, that, or the other at all.
Yeah.
But I knew the championships were the thing. So that was once I started getting into it, my focus was, right, how do I get into these things? And I always remember that following year, the week before the Mullingar Scratch Cup, I'd entered that and I hadn't gotten in. I was the 13th reserve, and Connor, who I used to play with in Paris, Connor Rose, slagged me the day before because I said I was going to go down and wait around. He's like, because we were down at the timesheet that day and Paris scored on the Saturday, and I said, I'm going to go down and wait in the morning and see if I get out, and if not, I'll come back and play with you in the company. Slagged me. He goes, you're really obsessed with trying to play in these things, aren't you? It's a bit sad. And I was like, well, you know, this is where all the good guys are playing. I wanted to try and see, can you? So I basically said, yes, I am. Yeah. So and then I actually did get out. One guy didn't show up, and I was the highest reserve there, and I played. Yeah, made the cut, and so that's kind of where the obsession with the championship started. So I had hoped to get into the West pre-qualifier at least that year, but that was the COVID year, 2020. So I think on my handicap, I think I was plus 0.2. So I probably would have gotten into the qualifier, but then it was cancelled. So there was only the 4 championships that year, and I ended up getting into 3. It's a bit weird actually even talking about. Sometimes I'm like, how am I playing against these lads? It's weird.
Why do you think that?
I don't know. Just like even describing it there, like you're asking me about football. It's like, as you're asking me about it, it's like how obsessed I was with it. Never really give a shit about golf, you know?
Yeah, but everyone kind of has that thing, you know? We're the same. Like we did the live broadcast in the east of Ireland, and I was very happy with it. It went really well. 8,500 people have watched it live.
Yeah, really, yeah.
Which was
I watched a good chunk of it back, actually. It was really good, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Which is way more than I honestly thought would tune in.
Yeah.
But even this morning, I was like, how do we make it better? Like, what's the small thing? Like, and we're looking like I'm at the point where we're looking at faster cables to make like just the transmitting a little bit easier. So everyone's got that thing that they're obsessed with. So it's just a case of.
But you're doing it with like 4 or 5 guys or whatever it was. Like,
Oh yeah,
that's
a
like,
fraction
to be able to
of,
do it with that was class, you know?
Yeah, thank you.
And even I was looking back at some of the interviews you're doing with like Hugh and Gary and stuff like that, and you're there, you're listening the earphone like to hear what Dave's saying on the course and trying to keep track of that, but also keeping the conversation going with the guys. Like, that's hard.
Yeah, that was particularly hard. But it's funny, like obviously the women's amateur's on this week.
Yeah, are you going to that?
Yeah, I'll be going pretty much straight after this. I was there yesterday as well.
Cool.
But I also follow all the producers. So it's the same like IMG Sky Sports team that do that live broadcast and did it from Ballyliffin as well.
Yeah.
And so I went over there yesterday and I was saying to Michael, I was like, I want to talk to like this producer because I want to see how they're doing their live broadcast and stuff like that. It's purely just like that's just what I'm obsessed about. But everyone's got that thing, and you're saying that just like football's the same. But even though you're saying like it's mad to think that you're competing against these guys, or why do you think it's mad?
Well, like most of the guys I'm playing against have been in teams or squad setups or whatever for their whole life, or their golf. In most cases, golf is most of their lives. Like historically, but even the other bit about it that's a bit mad is like golf is definitely all of their lives now. Yeah. With like the rare exception of the people, the few who are working as well, and like that's even the other bit about it is like being there with them now. And I've great respect for them when it's not going well, because if that's their big thing and it's not going well, how do they recover from that? Whereas at least for me, I've so many other things to worry about in terms of work or whatever, that it just takes my mind off it straight away. Or, you know, I remember being when we were in Spanish Am this year and it kind of got rains, it was disrupted. It ended up 4 rounds of stroke play on Sunday. I remember chatting with Shawnee after, and he'd had a great finish and he was buzzing. I was delighted for him. He held out for a second shot and he had a really strong finish or whatever. And he was asking me how I did, and I was like, not great, whatever. But I can't. And he was saying, he's going back tomorrow. And I was like, no, I'm going back tonight. And he was like, geez, that's a lot. And I was like, yeah, I just can't wait to go back to work tomorrow. He was like, what? Why would you want to go back to work? Like, because I love my work. I haven't been there this week and had so many things taken away from it, you know?
Do you find that helps? I mean, like, you always look at people having a bit of context, so you hear about when like professional golfers or whoever it is become a parent, and they're like, you get that, true. You get that new perspective. Do you think that having the fact that golf isn't every aspect of your life, you're able to kind of lock in for when you need to, but also just completely leave it on the side when you also want to?
Yeah, I think it definitely helps me. I've said that to people before, is that it's great for me that I have such a big thing outside of golf as well, because if it's not going well, it's, you know, it doesn't dwell on me too much. Of course, everyone, like people know me that I do get into it and I get you know, annoyed or whatever, it's not going well, but at the same time I'm immediately switched focus to something else that's really important in my life too. But on the counter side of that, it's got big challenges. Like last season, in the middle of the season, I remember kind of this time, or a couple of, like, say, just over a year ago, when we'd finished the Irish Am and I was kind of up there in the Order of Merit, and then I realised, okay, Jesus, I could make the Ireland team now if I have a good couple of weeks. And then like we'd a lot going on as well at the time, and I had to just say, well, I have to give this a shot. I'll regret it forever if I don't. And so I was really diligent with the golf for those few weeks when we had the East and Connacht stroke play and Ulster stroke play and stuff like that. And I had a huge clash then when the South was on. We were our business, we were in this accelerator startup program for energy startups, and we had gotten into the final of it. So it was a global competition with 700, 800 companies who entered it. We gotten into the final 15. And it's with 7 utilities across the world. So ESB have put us into it from here, but they're with Origin in Australia, Hydro-Quebec in Canada, EDP in Portugal, big, huge energy companies. And the first leg of the final was being hosted by Origin in Australia, in Sydney, the exact same week as the South. And like, this was the biggest thing that happened to me in my professional career, and the biggest thing that happened to me in my sporting career, that were on the exact same time, the two opposite ends of the planet.
Yeah, couldn't really get much further. Like,
no. So yeah, I mean that was really, really difficult. I have a great team in Prime 19 in the company, so the guys went and did it and did really well. We had the second leg of the final then a couple of months later, and we ended up coming second in that. Well, ultimately there was a first prize. We were kind of told subsequently we were pretty much second, but it was great for us and it's been really good for the business. And but that was really tough because I'm there like at the South. I'm there on the phone at 6 a.m., 6:30 a.m. with the lads on WhatsApp video asking, how that day's gone or what's on now, the next stage of it, whatever. And then I'm trying to get myself set for my round of 16 match or whatever. So yeah, it was challenging on the other foot, but I do think all in all, it's a huge advantage for me.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's probably pros and cons to that being on in Australia, where obviously if you're up at 6 o'clock in the morning, they're probably getting ready to go for dinner and then go to bed after that. And then you can only focus on your round of golf then because nothing can be done on the other side of the world.
Actually, I think that's one thing that I've realized that I'm able to do pretty well is when I am playing golf, I do not think about work.
That's great.
So I think I'd probably be better if I did think about work rather than thinking about the last chip that I missed or whatever, but I don't, it doesn't, I'm able to kind of block that out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you obviously won the Order of Merit for last year. Going into that year, because obviously like taking the golf game back up seriously and focusing on championships.
Yeah.
Like just before COVID, so I was like 2019,
yeah, exactly, 2019, 2020
to 2023 is a very short period to go from where you were to winning.
Yeah.
And obviously you played in a couple of championships kind of over 2020, 21, 22. Where, I mean, we'll be completely blunt about it. You probably weren't a factor for winning the Order of Merit.
I doubt it.
What changed then in between those 2 or 3 years? Is it just a case of you kind of get a bit more comfortable, you're in more championships, or was there a big shift?
I don't know. It's hard to put the finger on it. I guess I've done an absolutely ridiculous amount of practice, as I said, and I've worked really hard at it, but that doesn't count for a huge amount, really. 2021 was a decent year for me. That was the first time I kind of really, anyone might have said, "Oh, who's that fella?" Because I made a cut I made a couple of cuts. I was in the second last group with Rob Moran and Keith in the close when Rob had a putt to win it, that kind of thing. I had a good season there. All else being equal, let's say, for me anyway. 2022 wasn't great. Won a mid-am, missed a bunch of cuts in some of the Irish tournaments. But like I was then like my big thing was, could I ever play Interpros? I really wanted, like I'd grown up going to the Interpros and Enniscrone. We had an Enniscrone. I grew up caddying in the Interpros and things like that for the men's and the women's. And it's a big deal, obviously, and has always started. But that was kind of like, could I ever do that? And I wanted to represent Connacht in that because that's where I'd learned all my golf and Enniscrone had become my home club and that kind of thing. But that was all I was ever thinking. Could I ever play that? And I wasn't. I didn't make the team in 2022, but I wasn't miles away. That's like Damien. I got the call from Damien when he picked the team saying, "Hard luck, but you're not on it."
Okay.
And that was a big focus then for 2023 was, could I auto qualify with the Order of Merit top 3 Connacht players after Mullingar, I think, automatically qualified. So that was kind of my goal at the start, and then it just started to spiral. Because the results had gone well and I ended up at the top of the Order of Merit, it was kind of, it's very quickly it changed. I played a few tournaments the off season. I got down to Spain the last couple of years and played tournaments, and that's really helpful in getting used to finishing like top 5, top 6 and these kind of things. Even though they might be smaller fields, there's still good players who are going playing those things. Got my world ranking in 2022. That was a big help then, because you get into the Irish tournaments pretty much if you've got a wagger. So there was little small things, but there was certainly no sign of taking that home at the end of the year, obviously. But it's funny how quickly, did well in the West, qualifying, lost in the last 16, but still, decent result, good points.
Yeah.
Then I was second in Cork in the qualifying, lost the last 16 as well, but again, decent points. And then the Irish Am, I guess, was probably ultimately, I haven't really thought about it like that, but when I look back, probably the Irish Am is the most important. Like I finished 12th in that, tied 12th, but we had a really strong field that year. It was a Walker Cup year and a lot of good players. So it was level par for the 4 rounds around the island, which is kind of mind-boggling in a way, almost as much versus where I was at 3 or 4 years. I couldn't do 4 rounds level par in Paris Court 4 years before that, or 3 years before that, let alone do it around the island in tournament conditions. And in tough wins. So that was the key breakthrough, I guess, because I got really good points then for that. I was third best of the Irish.
Yeah.
I actually slipped down the last 3 holes, 4 holes. Raf overtook me. I was second of the Irish, I think, or at least tied with him with a few holes to go. And then all of a sudden I'm tied on top of the Order of Merit with Boucher, and it's kind of like, Jesus, I could easily, well, not easily, but I could definitely make the Ireland team now.
Yeah.
And I guess the thing I'm most chuffed about when I look back is how I handled that, because like I ought to have absolutely, blown a gasket in nerves and stuff like that, but ultimately I was able to keep together, I guess.
Do you think that your experience kind of playing team sport, and because like I say, you played in like relegation battles and promotion battles in football.
Yeah.
You've been in high stress situations before, and you've known, like, as a team, how to have to handle that. Did you lean on that at all, even just subconsciously? You think, I've been in this kind of position before?
I think, yeah, but I think you're asking about that athleticism point. I think it's maybe the competitiveness and the doggedness kind of thing, because I always would have had that in the football. I never wanted us to give up on a match even 2-0 down with a couple of minutes to go or whatever, that kind of thing.
Sure.
So I think that definitely, that little fight or fire or whatever helped as much as anything. I guess the other thing really, when I think about it in 2023, is like mindset is so important. Like for me, I moved to Carton last year and I started playing the team with the guys there, Senior Cup, Barton Shield. And again, moving to Carton, I was like, right, I want to try and make the Carton Senior Cup team. Started last year. And just how strong that team is and how good the players are was a big help as well. Of like going to little, like when I played in Castleknock Scratch Cup last year, which was kind of our lull period before the South, I was going to the Castleknock Scratch Cup and I want to make sure I get back on the Barton Shield team here, because I got dropped from that when I lost my match in the Senior Cup. Just got dropped from the next round of the Barton Shield, and like that's what I'm going to Castleknock Scratch Cup for, even though it was a couple of weeks before the South, which is the biggest tournament of my life. Yeah. Given what was on the line, that was my focus. So I think that really helped as well. So kind of, I guess it's all. Yeah, it's much between the ears as anything, I guess. For me, it's probably that doggedness or competitiveness. Like even back against the wall in the South, when I was looking like I was going to miss the cut, like last 9 holes, it just kind of came good and got it in to make sure I made the cut, and that pretty much guaranteed the team for me. So yeah. Because
you made 7 pars, 2 birdies in the back 9 there.
Yeah, back 9. I was 2 over for the front 9. And 6 over total, which was going to be outside the cut. And 7 pars and 2 birdies, which I guess probably the proudest 9 holes I've ever had, because it was all on the line for me ultimately. Now, as it turns out, I would have missed, if I'd missed the cut, I would have gotten on anyway, but that was not within my control because there was so many players who could have caught me. So yeah, that was very satisfactory. It was a shaky par on the last ultimately, but I laid up, even though I had an easy shot to get on the green, and 2, laid up and kind of hit a shocking pitch that just got to the fringe and just wobbled 2 putts up there and got in. But then that took such a weight off my shoulders, I guess, because ultimately it was all the pressure was from me on me. No one else.
Yeah.
No one else would. If I had capitulated and not made the team, there's no one I don't think would have looked at it and said, you eat like such a bottler. I guess in reality, people would have said it was cool that you were actually that close to it, even given where you came from or whatever. So,
do you work on the mental side of your golf, or is that something that you just kind of work on with Noel?
Yeah, no, I do talk an awful lot to Noel about what to do, and he's great for that because he's a bit of a natural born killer, I guess, and he's got a really good mindset of you just got to go out and shoot 67 every week.
Yeah.
Okay. But so I talk a lot to him about that. Yeah, I've done bits over the years. Brendan was good for it as well, and he introduced me to a guy that he worked with, Sean. And I mean, I've got certainly demons there, as we all do, like bad demons, I would say, because I get so into it. I think I've gone through waves of it. I think last season my mental side of things was really good. But again, it's chicken and egg. My golf was really good. Yeah. Consistent or whatever, let's say. And then I guess if things aren't as smooth, then it is a challenge. But even like I think it's a knife edge kind of thing. It's like, the age old thing of, do you want to try and calm Roy Keane down, or do you want to calm Wayne Rooney down, or is that an edge that helps them? Like even like this season, yeah, I haven't played as well as last season, certainly outside of Ireland. But even in the Irish stuff, like I think that mental side, like even I know we were chatting at Baltray about the East, like I'm gone from that tournament on the 18th tee in the second round, and just being a dogged so and so or whatever kind of got me over the line, and then a bit of luck obviously helps. But then you go and finish seventh. It's kind of like, yeah, I wouldn't say my mental game was strong for the first 35 holes in Baltray.
Sure.
But then for my tee shot in the 36th hole, but then I teed it up again. I made 3 with my second ball, and that was ultimately, I guess, more mental than anything. But then the next day, my first 18 holes, my mental game wasn't good, and my second 18 holes it was. So for me, it's quite up and down. It's something I do try and work on. I try and work on, like I've worked on a new thing on my putting, to try and make sure, because I'd be thinking about so many different random things in my head. The kind of hamster never stops running around up there. And I'm now working on a new thing by putting with my breathing, where I actually concentrate on when I time my breaths, which means that I'm exhaling just before I'm hitting my putts. So I got to time my routine, because I have the exact same routine every time, so that my mind is clear, because all I'm focusing on is that exhale. And that's really helped. I've only started doing that in the last few weeks, and really helps clear the mind when I'm putting, which means I think my stroke is better. It's more free. So I do definitely work on it. I don't know, like some of the players be probably more tuned into it, having been closer to it over the years, but I guess my age maybe helps with that.
You mentioned there that at the start of like the 2023 season, the big goal was to get up to the Interpros. So when international teams start coming up and start becoming a real possibility, how much more excited about that prospect do you become? Because obviously, like, to represent your country at any level, at any sport is massive. But I think for people that grow up playing sports, the idea of playing for your country is always kind of there. Like obviously, whenever I played hockey, like as a kid growing up, that was always there. And the same for yourself playing football. Like it's always a possibility, and it's always on the table. So when it becomes, you know, a possibility again in golf, that must be a very exciting feeling.
Like it's, again, like I was saying, I'll never forget staying up that season or whatever, Pegasus last minute. I'll never forget it. Like the pride or whatever, the excitement that day. Like I just lost the quarterfinal in the South, kind of the furthest I'd ever been in one of the championships. As I said, I get into it, I ought to have been really upset. First hour or two I was upset, and then driving home, like, this is amazing. Like, what's going to happen to me next week? And you know, just spend a bit of time with mum the next day, and just seeing how over the moon she was, and getting to have my mum and dad come over to watch me do that. The two of them are absolutely obsessed with sport as well. It didn't fall far from the tree, let's say. Both really good at sport, the two of them. And mum was really close to playing for Ireland, actually, in tennis. Only she had a car crash, and she probably would have been on the team. She was in the squad when she was in her early 20s, and she was really, really good tennis player, into pro for years, and won lots of junior tournaments in Ireland. Like, kind of same kind of setup where you've got provincial tournaments. So she was a brilliant tennis player, and I'd grown up with the stories and knowing, like, that was really tough for her. Like, she was in a car crash on the way back from a tournament, and ultimately cost her chance of playing for Ireland. And I guess, so doing it for them was the best bit about it, I would say. But like, I wouldn't even begin to describe how exciting it was, and how much kind of pride you feel. And then it was the most competitive week I've ever had, the home internationals last year, and I loved it. It's just, you know, okay, yeah, I was only talking to Gavin Moynihan about this the other day in the Open qualifying, that, you know, yeah, we didn't win, and so I do look back on it with upset because we didn't win. And again, that's my own challenge. I need to try and get over that, because it was still an amazing week or whatever. But just how competitive it was, like, I can't tell you the difference it felt standing over putts, knowing that you're putting to try and win a hole to win for your teammates for Ireland, to try and win the home internationals. Like, it just doesn't compare to anything. Like, I remember making a really long putt against the English lads, which I have a bit of a rep for, but making a really long putt on the 14th, where he was in tight for birdie, and I made a huge one for birdie, and like, I totally messed up my pitch. And the feeling of that going in, never forget that feeling, because I was like, we're back against the wall here, and I've just made a putt now that gives me a real chance against him, even though he's you know, he was in control of the match. And I'm walking to the next tee, I was like, right, that's, you know, you're now doing something there for Ireland golf or your Ireland teammates for the men and the women, because it's a joint tournament at the end of the day, and that was really cool. Ultimately, he beat me, so it was crap. But you know, it's it was the excitement, the elation, and doing something like that is nothing I ever thought I could have done. You know, and I want to do it again. Like even like say the octagonal matches was unreal as well. That was a brilliant week, and it's probably a little bit more relaxed, but we had a great team. Like four under 18s, who were all, you know, hugely hot prospects. Played Jack Leagues, probably going to play Walker Cups, things like that. Going to be pros. So that was a cool week. Even just once you have the gear on in team environment, you're playing with the Shamrock on or whatever, is it's unreal. I want to do more of it.
And surely winning the Order of Merit last season, that puts you on the high performance program for this year.
Yeah.
So your chances, or the likelihood that you're going to be playing a lot of international golf this season, and even then going forward, much higher.
Oh, like this year has been wild. Like getting into all of the tournaments I've gotten into has been great. It's been so tough to manage because I've been away so much and back and forth and every week, and it's all well and good being in the squad when that's your thing and you're all in on the golf. As I said about having work, it is tough. But I wouldn't change it for the world. Like got to go to South Africa for 3 weeks and play 3 tournaments there, had the octagonals, got into, you know, things like St Andrews Links and Brabazon, getting to play those, just been fantastic. And I've missed cuts in a number of those tournaments, but I've been like, you know, I've started those tournaments. There's none of them I've been out of it early. Like I've been still in and around those tournaments after first rounds and then started second rounds, and that's all going to stand to me in good stead. I know that, because I know when I started getting into these championships, I got burnt those first few years. I came last in Cork, for example, the first year I played it. But those things stand to you in good stead, and I know like I've gone all in it, and I've played in everything I could get into, and I've overplayed for sure. There's not one school of thought would say that I haven't overplayed and run myself into the ground, and especially with work. But I know those experiences are going to be very valuable. I want to be competitive in these tournaments and for that trophy again, for sure, for the coming years. Obviously, a lot of my golf will be in Ireland, and I know having played those is going to be so much better for it. Yeah.
You joked a little earlier on about how you're very structured in terms of like even what you eat when you're on the golf course.
Yeah.
For balancing the demands that now international golf takes on your time.
Yeah.
The amateur circuit in Ireland takes on your time, and then like self-employed career takes on your time.
Yeah.
How important is structure?
Yeah, it's a good question.
It's kind of the secret, really.
Well, I'd say I'm very unstructured ultimately as well, though.
Really?
Yeah, I'd say I'm quite higgledy-piggledy with my organisation, to say the least, I'd say. But that cost me for sure once this year, which I don't want to go into the old Irish am. But I think for me, the food thing, I'm obviously insanely structured, and that's a deliberate focus. I guess I'm structured as well in terms of making sure I'm at the course. It's all the same time, same stretching routine, same warm up. Yeah. You know, things like Castleknock Scratch Cup this year, I was freaking out because that driving range, is it the public golf course? Elm Green, is it?
Yeah.
Went there, they're doing construction on the driving range. So last year I went and warmed up there because Castleknock doesn't have a range, and went there and it's closed because they're doing construction. I'm freaking out. I haven't been able to hit balls before I'm going out to play around the golf, because I've put this structure in place that I follow now rigidly. So obviously you've got to adapt for things like that, but it's very hard to structure like work or even the lecturing that I do and you see and stuff like that. I had to rejuggle a couple of things there. So it's very hard to do that with the kind of tournaments. You don't know if you're going to be in or get away or get picked for this or picked for that or whatever. But I think what I try and do is let's say micro level structure, like around the tournaments. I'll have the same thing. I have the same routine of the food the couple of days before, during, that kind of stuff. With work, I'm blessed with our team. Like I can't say enough about them because they've gotten me through this for sure. I've been able to do this. So the structure they give me, I guess, by being just being so good at what they do and being so efficient with our clients and our product sets that we're building, that kind of stuff. But yeah, I would say the structure around the food is probably not a good representation of my organizational structures, I would say. Yeah.
That's funny. Because from watching you and from hearing that story, it sounds like structures would have been a pretty big part of how you've succeeded, because also you talk about the level of training that you had to put into getting to playing in championships and that side of it as well.
Yeah, like I would my practice is pretty structured, as in I go to Leopardstown driving range way too much. They see me all the time. They're sick of me. Ronan Mallarney was only slagging me at over the winter about probably having a gold card for there, but they're great. Like, I mean, they're probably the best range I think around, and I get to go there after work, and it's great because they're open until the security guy kicks me out. But so I do structure to make sure that I'm hitting balls X number of days a week, getting out, and if it's over the winter on the course, to practice over the weekends, because I won't be able to get to a course during the week otherwise. But I've got my routines on my short game drills that I do when I'm out in the course and that kind of thing. So it is quite, I guess, yeah, to that point, it is very structured in terms of how I approach practice and prep and things like that. Yeah, even like practice rounds, that's something Noel's helped me quite a lot with. How do you approach that? Even though he's kind of the mindset of you don't need to practice rounds, you're better off going just walking the course or whatever. I do like plan out with him tee shots that I'll hit on certain holes, because he knows the courses inside out and that kind of thing. So I do. I guess I'm probably doing myself a disservice say there isn't much structure. I guess there's a lot of structure to that point there, but I think that helps, like having a game plan even for the course in hand or whatever, the holes that are upcoming. I guess knowing the courses that we're going to for the Irish tournaments really helps.
So how did you and Noel get together?
So, well, I rang him. He wasn't ringing me anyway. So I would have known who Noel was from watching him play in the West, actually, in the 90s when he won.
To be fair, his name's probably on that as
his
well.
His name's on that.
He's got his name on a few things.
His name's on that twice, and I was having this discussion with him. I think of the last 5 winners he's been coaching for them at the time or something as well. Wow. So something like that. But I remember all his dad talking about it as well, because Dad would have been into the golf. Dad was a good golfer. He's 3 handicapped for his whole life pretty much. If he could ever put it, he would have played in the championships. But so I don't know where I got mine. But I was with Brendan, and then I kind of felt like I just got a little bit stuck in what I'd learned and where I'd gotten to. And then I had been playing the tournaments and known that a bunch of the guys they'd talk about who they go to, and I knew a bunch of them went to Noel, and obviously he's in Leopardstown then, and I'm there a lot. And so I just got in touch with him at the end of 21, I think it was. End of 2020. And he saw me, and I don't know. Yeah, I think he's mad busy with his coaching with Maynooth and all that kind of stuff. So he's hard to get a hold of, but he's been great with me, and he's always given me loads of time. And I've had great success since I've started to see him. I've learned so much from him, not just swing wise, as you've been saying. Like, I do talk to him a lot about approach for any given tournament or any given, or I'll talk back to him about what happened here, or I'll talk to him about what my overall goals would be. And like, yeah, so he's, yeah, I guess ultimately changed it all for me in terms of how I approach things.
Yeah, like what? Like in what way?
Well, I mean, I don't think I have a swing to behold, but what it looks like now, my control, like shot shape, for example. I remember having this conversation with Jack and TJ one day, telling them that I'd only got a draw now that I started going to Noel. And like, I think a lot of people would look at me as a draw player because I hit a draw everywhere. But that's only from Noel. And I remember saying to the 2 lads one day that I played with Jack in that Mullingar Crash Cup. I remember saying to him that when I was playing with him, that I was just trying to hit every shot as straight as possible. He kind of looked at me as though I had about 10 heads. And again, these guys have grown up in golf. He's like, if you've not got a shot shape you're trying to hit. I was like, no, I was just trying to hit a laser straight as possible and just aim at the middle of the green. If it goes a little bit right or left, grand. And they couldn't get their head around this. And again, now that I understand what I do, what I understand, I get why they looked at me as though I had 10 heads. But things like that was unbelievably vital. Like, playing and knowing that I have a draw that's going to be there, just a couple of yards, whatever, be it with an iron or driver or whatever, just having a shot shape even. Like, I know it sounds really basic, but he gave me that. I never would have thought of that. And I hadn't ever been taught that, let's say. And I think he gave me that because, like, he's got a lot of his players are faders. I think he gave me that because he's incredibly smart at all this, and he looks at me at how my hands operate or how I swing or what my natural way of trying to hit the ball is. And he's obviously like, that's a draw. I assume that's what happened. I've never even had that conversation with him, but I assume that's what happened. And so he set me up for a draw, and then I started hitting a draw. And it was actually kind of 2021 when I started hitting that draw, and then I started having good tournaments and I started just doing well and things. So yeah, even like what sounds trivial, but like my swing is so different. And a few people have actually been nice and said that to me in the tournaments, that your swing is so different now to when we first saw you.
Okay, nice.
And that's from him and the drills and the way he's approached it with me, I guess.
So then when it was the North, wasn't it? When you had sealed the Bridgestone Order of Merit trophy.
Yeah.
How does that? Obviously, it feels great to win the trophy.
Yeah.
But it's a funny kind of win where obviously like some very good results throughout the year, but no wins, we'll say.
Yeah.
It's a funny way to go about winning this season, I think.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of it's only as it's gone on that it's meant more.
Yeah.
Like it means way more to me now than it did, I'd say, then to have won that. And kind of the joy of having won that is much higher up now in my mind than then, let's say. And then there's a lot that comes with it. It's kind of it's funny. Like, I mean, I never would have thought I'd been sitting here in 2024. I haven't played 11 matches for Ireland, won 8.5 points. It's like, it's mind blowing that I've been able to play 11 matches for Ireland in things between the octagons and the homes. And that's something I'm extremely proud of, that I've played 11 times, beaten twice, won half and won 8 games. Like that's something I didn't think would be in the realm of possibility, but it's something, as I said, I want more of now. And ultimately it's come on the back of that. And I think if you look at how they've structured it, they've put the line in the sand that if you achieve X, Y, and Z, you will be on the team. And I think that's a good balance. And you talk to lads in the other countries and there's the same kind of structure, I guess, how the golfing union set it up, that there's certain automatic places, be it world ranking or performances in home tournaments, and it places weight on the Irish tournaments. I think from people have said it to me that people look at me getting on that team last year and like, well, why can't I do that? And so people are focused on the tournaments and can they be consistent in the Order of Merit to try and get on the teams. So, I mean, I think when you're in it, as I was saying, like the last tournament, I finished 8th. Actually, I was kind of like washing up in that North. I did well in the first 2 rounds, was in contention. Then the third round was hectic wind and I fell away massive. Well, I didn't actually fall away that much, but I shot 82, worst round of the season. And I slipped from maybe 6th to 14th or 13th or something at lunch, but I knew I had the Order of Merit 1. And then, you got to try and refocus on each tournament as well. And I just knuckled down. I said, I want to try and get top 10 this. And I kept knuckling away and got into that and tied 8th at the end. But I think it's after, the longer it's been since winning it, the more kind of, the biggest thing definitely was getting that thing twisting around, looking at all those names and having your name beside that is, I don't know if I'll ever have a weirder experience than having my name on the same trophy as McIlroy. And it's not like some, boxy little scratch cup that he won when he was 12 or whatever. It's he won it twice for being the most consistent player in the Irish players, whatever. And Harrington and Clark and all the great Irish amateurs, like we talked about, like Noel, Garrett, and Jim C. Even people like Caddyford and the Interpros on there, which is hilarious. Michael Owen and Colin Moriarty, 2 great Irish pros that I caddied for in Enniscrone and the Interpros a long time ago. It's funny to be on the same thing as all of those guys, and it'll be there forever. It's there, engraved on it now. Whatever happens, no one can take it away from me. No one can take away the Ireland stuff as well from me. And I suppose that's why I do it, is like, why do you want to try and play in these tournaments? Is to try and achieve things that are not ever going to be changed. They're historical achievements that are undeniable. So that's kind of the biggest thing, and it's been amazing, even the opportunity I've gotten on the back of that. And I'd say to anyone, it's something to go for and to strive for, and it'd be interesting to see how the season ends this year. But like, I mean, for me this year, the problem is I haven't been able to play just all the Irish tournaments because I've been away. So I don't get to, now you could argue you absolutely can still win it by not playing those. But in Ireland, I've only ended up playing three tournaments so far: the West, Ulster Stroke Play, and the East. And even with that, again, I feel very comfortable now in these courses. Like in those 3, okay, the West was extremely disappointing. But and it's funny if you think about it, if you compare like the West and the East, for me, I played so much better at the West. I finished second in the stroke play qualifying out of the 144, only from hitting a 4-iron out of bounds in 16. I would have won the qualifying. In the East, I was not on my game. I scraped in as the last man through, essentially through the cut, and then I finished 7th. In the West, I finished 33rd because I got thumped out in the first round match. But again, in stroke play stuff in Ireland, I felt like I'm comfortable. I know I can compete really well against the fields. I've finished second in the qualifying there, 10th in Ulster, 7th in the East. I've missed some of the tournaments, but we still got quite a lot to go now. We've got the South, the Close, the North, big tournaments to come. Interpros next week, which I, as I said, that was my main ambition. I can't tell you how excited I am to play that again next week. And that was really cool to play last year for the first time. It's a bit earlier this season as well, which I think gives a bit more weighting to it than it has had the last couple of years.
Sure.
So I think that's going to be a great week. We haven't publicly announced the teams yet, but I think we all kind of roughly know. I think it's going to be good, strong teams for all the provinces. And that's it. Like, those competitive weeks are exactly what I live for. So we've got 2 matches a day for 3 days. It doesn't get any better than that in my mind. So really looking forward to that. So that Order of Merit of the season kind of leads to all that. But it's kind of that thing that I talked about in football. You've got such reliance on coaches picking you for this, that, and the other. It's the same with the team stuff, I guess, for golf. But at least you have certain things that if you achieve them, you're there. So everyone says, I always remember Paul O'Hanlon had a great one for me when I played with him in the Irish Close in Tullamore in 2021, because we were talking about the Irish Am later in the year. It was in the European club. And he said, it's not far from you. That'll be handy. And I said, I need to get into it. Because again, I wasn't necessarily getting into all these tournaments. And he goes, what do you mean get into it? I was like, well, my handicap's not low enough to get into it now. And he goes, just shoot the scores. And then you're in,
it's that easy.
Yeah, which is it's a good mindset, and it was a good tip. Like, it was probably an unbeknownst tip, but it was. It's like, it's in your own control, which ultimately, I guess, as I said, you can play the best football in the world and just not get picked for a team. Then you don't progress, you don't get scouted, whatever. Not that was ever on my agenda, but there is variability in that. It's the same, obviously, for the golf teams and squads, but at least we've got a nice balance. You have within your own power, if you do shoot the scores, you do have consistent results, you do work in Order of Merit, you can get on those teams kind of removing any of that. So I guess that's some of the perks and benefits of it, but ultimately it's something that you control yourself with your own scores in golf, I guess.
You spoke about the West and the stroke play side of it, and how obviously that 4-iron really annoys you.
Yeah.
Does is it really important to you and to your contemporaries to be the first place in the stroke play?
I think I made a mistake this year on focusing so much on that. And now they tempt you in as well with the bloody trophy they have for it in the West now, the new one they've got. So there's a trophy for winning the qualifier. But I went to the West and I was like, I'm adamant that I want to.
Is that also because it's like you grew up in Ennis?
Well, yeah, the West is extremely special for me, I guess, because of I literally didn't know there was such things North, South, and East until I was probably in my 20s. It genuinely sounds stupid, but so yeah, the West is extremely special for me in that sense. We had it 3 times and then it's grown. So, but I went to the West this year, and in the stroke play qualifying, I want to win this qualifier. And I, really, really good first round, bit higgly-piggly, but really good. And then I was in position to do that. And then coming down those 5, birdied 14, which got me back to 2 under, which was the posted number. But I would have had a better second round and won it if I got in at that. So all I had to do was get through those last chaotic 4 holes into the teeth of the wind in par, and I get it. But so, yeah, I got very annoyed when I hit that OB, and the problem with 16 is like I'm 25 yards right away. It's obviously a big miss with a 4-iron, but you're trying to hit this punch draw into it. But your OB, because that OB has come in years and after years, and they're kind of, I think they're going to be replacing that hole, I think, actually, because the erosion. But yeah, I got very frustrated with that, and I remember talking to a couple of the Brian Keogh or Irish Golfer Mag, or these guys after that round, just getting a few words, and I remember being frustrated. and like people are saying, well, you're second qualifier. That's great.
Yeah.
So I'm frustrated, and
you've also like you've done the job.
Yeah,
like you're into the match play.
And I think I missed that. Like I think like I want to win qualifiers for sure, and Noel's adamant about that as well. But I think I got too into it.
Sure.
Because I remember even Evan saying it to me when I hit David Evans. I was clearly frustrated. He's like, "Why do you care?" Like, because I want to win the qualifier. He goes, "Who cares about the qualifier?" I care.
Yeah.
But I don't. It didn't really matter ultimately. Then I think probably wasn't in the right mindset then for the match. I didn't play well in the match, but it's again, it's all part of the learning experience, isn't it? Like I never would have thought I'd be going to a West legitimately believing I was going to win the qualifier, legitimately there for the taking. Let's say I didn't like. Who would have thought I would have been doing that? Like, but I'm going there. Like I'm going to the East. I remember chatting to you after the East, and you're saying you must be happy with that. And I remember thinking I said to you something like, "Not really." But even though ultimately, obviously, where I was at after 2 rounds, I was definitely happy with it. But I still want to try and win these tournaments. Like I'm absolutely going to try and win these, and I've got a lot more belief than I ever thought I would have that I would be doing that. I think I'd definitely be, like you were saying there, would anyone have thought maybe that I might have won that Order of Merit? No, for sure, no one would have thought that. But I think now, I think people might say I've certainly got as good a chance of winning those tournaments as any of the guys who are playing, let's say. And I guess that's through hard work, but that's definitely my motivation is I want to win those tournaments. I want to do as much as I can. I want to try and play representative golf as much as I can, for sure. But you gotta, I guess one thing I've learned this year, having been in the high performance squad, as you said, you're there for selection or whatever, is you got to focus on the recipe that's got you there as well. Now this year has been a bit of a whirlwind, so I'm going to enjoy all of these tournaments and play in all of these tournaments and get as much exposure as I can to some of these great players. Like even just like the guy Dom who lost the final of the Bridgestone there the other week, who had the most runaway victory I've ever heard of in amateur golf at 17 shots in Scottish Am. Played practice round with him in St Andrews. Played practice round with Ben from South Africa who's playing Palmer Cup next week. Things like that. Just getting to play with all these cool players. Like that's great learning for me and great experience to see. There's not that much different what they're doing, and you can see how they plot their way around the tournament. So this year is a whirlwind for sure. But I definitely learned, like, you've got to forget about anything exterior, and it's like the same recipe that's gotten you the fruits, I'd say, so far. You got to stick to that. So I'd say I've learned way, way, way more this year than I learned last year. And ultimately, in Ireland I've had decent results. I've missed a number of cuts abroad, let's say, but I've been thereabouts. There's none of those tournaments I've been out of. So like I would say I've learned 5x this year what I did last year, even though last year was by far the best golf or sporting year of my life. Yeah. I've definitely learned way, way more this year.
It's funny you talk about like not changing the the recipe that got you the way you are.
Golf, the omelette and the chicken salad.
Yeah. The same lunch every round. Yeah. Golfers in particular are very bad for that. I know that like you talk to anyone at any kind of level, you get to like a certain level, whether it's a handicap number or a team or whatever. Yeah. And then all of a sudden you're like, okay, well, I'm going to start like
swing changes,
tinkering with this thing. And you hear about it so often. You see it in the pro game, like from my side when you watch it and you're following players. You're just like, Why are you doing
that? Yeah.
Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I guess so. Look, of course, there's this constant improvement side of it. And it's not like I'm working on a number of things that are quite significant swing related items at the moment, I would say, with Noel, in terms of my exit and my path and things like that, and making sure I get further left. But I think he's comfortable doing those things with me now because I've gotten to a place he's happy with my face control, for example, let's even talk about. So yeah, I'm definitely working on technique items, or even introducing that breathing thing, like I said, for putting. I'm changing things, but it's what I've learned, like the recipe of how you approach. It's as much how you approach it for prep and mindset, let's say, that you got to stick to that recipe. The more you're worried about, what scores you have in these tournaments or teams or anything like that, I think that can, they're great things to strive for, but back to Paul's point, shoot the scores and then kind of takes care of itself. But like, I'm still as excited about Senior Cup this weekend or Barton Shield in 2 weeks as I would have ever been, because those things, like I think you said it to me when we were in Baltray, is like that's where you kind of earn your stripes or whatever. Those things are huge. Like absolutely one of my top goals in golf is to win a senior cup and a Barton Shield for sure, because they're huge achievements, and to do it in the team side, we've got a great team, and to do anything together as a team in sport is so much better than doing it individually. So like again, the level of excitement for Interpros next week for me right now, even though I've golfed to my teeth, as I said, I've definitely over golfed. I absolutely can't wait for next week. And it's that competitive aspect of it, or kind of the meaning of something like an Interpros. Again, mum and dad are coming to that, and like people coming to watch, because it's a big event. And as I said, this year it's great because it's a bit earlier, so we've got a lot more interest in it. And Slieve Russell, I've never been there, but I believe it's going to be a great venue as well. So I guess certainly this year, sticking to what, like being motivated by all those things, by the being there, getting there is great. And you got to focus on what has gotten you there. How do you approach tournaments? How do you stay in the zone? Like, how do you not give up when you just hit an OB or whatever, lost on your tee shot that you got to make a par to try and make the cut or whatever? How do you stay focused is sticking back to what's worked so far.
So what's next on the calendar after Interpros? The South is not too far away now at this point.
Yeah, so we've got Senior Cup, Interpros, Barton Shield, and then not much things as a Scratch Cup or two, and then the South. But it's nice because it gives me a bit of a lead in now to the South. It's not like I'm getting the ferry over to England, back, go up to Belfast, play 36 holes. It's a bit more time to prep and get ready and get in the zone first, and even having a couple of weddings or whatever before that, things just keep you distracted. But at the same time, that's definitely the big next one for me. And then shortly after, we've got the Close in Dunleary, course that I know well or whatever, right beside the house. So that's like, they were, in fairness to them, even though I was Periscope member for years, they had the place in unbelievable condition last year for the Scratch Cup and for the All Ireland's Cups and Shields. So I expect that to be in great shape as well. And then we've got obviously the North still to come and things like that, Mullingar. So there's lots now, a bit more space out. It's been absolutely hectic 6 months. I guess start of the year there's been no kind of off season, so I'm particularly looking forward to the South because it's a nice bit of golf to lead into it, but not insane, and no travel, let's say.
Sure. Wasn't best of luck with all the club golf and then the Interpro golf and then the South.
Yeah.
There's still a lot of golf, a lot of amateur golf left this summer, so it's
a lot of match play as well, which is great.
Very nice. Wisdom, thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me, Johnny.
I'll definitely be seeing you on the circuit.
Cheers.
On the tee, Jack Nicklaus.
This is the minute that millions around the world have waited for.
We will allow you to enjoy all of this. They are dancing in the pubs of Dublin. Harrington with an ace.
And we have a shining star at sunset. Rory continues his run to greatness.
The return to glory.